I never imagined that growing old would make me invisible to the very family I helped build. For decades, I was the woman who kept birthdays remembered, dinners warm, and traditions alive. My son grew up watching me balance work, home, and responsibility with quiet strength. When he married, I welcomed his wife with open arms, believing love multiplied when shared. But slowly something shifted. Decisions were made without me. Conversations stopped including my voice. Then came the moment that cut deepest. During a family dinner, they discussed an upcoming luxury vacation. Everyone was invited, everyone except me. When I finally asked, my daughter-in-law smiled thinly and said, "You should take a vacation at a nursing home." Laughter followed, casual and cruel. My son said nothing. I smiled, excused myself, and cried alone that night. What they didn't know was that silence had been my greatest shield all my life. And I had learned long ago that dignity didn't need applause. I let them believe I was weak, outdated, and dependent. They had no idea what I owned, what I controlled, or what I was capable of. And I intended to keep it that way for now. After that night, I withdrew further, not out of defeat but strategy. I watched how my daughter-in-law moved through the world. Confident, entitled, convinced she was untouchable. She talked loudly about money, status, and appearances. She believed power came from being seen. I had learned the opposite. Years earlier, after my husband passed, I had taken over the family's quiet investments. I never boasted about them. I never dressed to impress. I preferred calm over chaos. Meanwhile, my son's marriage was built on show, not substance. As the vacation approached, I heard them bragging about first-class tickets, five-star hotels, and exclusive lounges. I simply nodded. On the morning of their departure, I dressed neatly and left my home at the same time. They didn't notice. At the airport, fate placed us in the same terminal. My daughter-in-law smirked when she saw me. "Lost?" she asked. I smiled and said I was exactly where I needed to be. She laughed and turned away. When boarding began, she strutted toward first class, her voice sharp and impatient. I stayed back, watching quietly. That was when the flight attendant stopped her and spoke words that would change everything. "Sorry. First class is reserved for the owner of the airline." Confusion flashed across her face, quickly replaced by anger. She argued, waving her boarding pass, insisting there must be a mistake. My son looked embarrassed. Passengers stared. Then the attendant looked past them, directly at me, and smiled with respect. She stepped aside and gestured for me to board. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. My daughter-in-law's face drained of color. My son's mouth fell open. I walked forward calmly, my heels steady, my heart calm. Inside the cabin, staff greeted me by name. Years of discretion had earned loyalty money never could. I took my seat without a word. From behind, I felt their shock, their confusion, their sudden realization that they had misjudged me completely. As the plane took off, memories flooded back. Every time I was dismissed, mocked, overlooked. I didn't feel revenge. I felt clarity. Power didn't need cruelty. It needed patience. And patience had brought me here. The days that followed were tense. News traveled fast within the family. Calls came in awkward and forced. My daughter-in-law avoided speaking directly, while my son finally asked the question he should have asked years ago. "Mom, who are you really?" I told him the truth. Not dramatically, not boastfully. I explained how I had invested early, how I believed in quiet growth, how I chose privacy over praise. I reminded him that strength often whispers. He listened, ashamed. Meanwhile, his wife struggled with the sudden shift. People who once admired her status now questioned it. The respect she thought she owned began slipping away. She tried to regain control by blaming me, but the truth was already visible. For the first time, she was forced to face someone she couldn't dominate. And for the first time, my son began to see the cost of his silence. I didn't demand apologies. I didn't ask for invitations. I simply continued living as I always had, calm, steady, unbothered. That unsettled them more than anger ever could. My daughter-in-law attempted fake kindness, forced smiles, awkward compliments. I accepted them politely, knowing authenticity can't be rushed. Slowly, my son started visiting alone. We talked about his childhood, his dreams, and where he lost himself trying to please someone who thrived on control. I didn't tell him to leave his marriage. I told him to find his voice. Strength, I reminded him, begins with self-respect. He nodded, eyes heavy with realization. The true turning point came at a family gathering months later. Surrounded by relatives, my daughter-in-law tried to reclaim her image by belittling others subtly, as she always had. But this time the room felt different. People had seen the truth. When she made a sharp remark toward me, the room went silent. Before I could respond, my son spoke. Calmly, firmly. He defended me. In that moment I knew something had changed permanently. Power had shifted, not because I demanded it, but because truth had finally surfaced. I smiled, not in victory but in relief. Life settled into a new rhythm. Respect replaced fear. Distance replaced toxicity. My daughter-in-law withdrew, no longer able to control narratives or people. My son grew stronger, more independent. As for me, I continued traveling, investing, and living fully. I was no longer invisible, but I didn't need to be seen to feel whole. The greatest reward wasn't recognition. It was peace. I had proven, without cruelty or revenge, that dignity outlasts arrogance. Looking back, I realized the nursing home comment had been a gift. It revealed who she was and reminded me who I had always been. A woman of patience, of foresight, of quiet power. They thought my silence meant weakness. They thought age meant irrelevance. They were wrong. And they learned far too late that the most powerful people in the room are often the ones who don't announce themselves until the moment truly arrives.